Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice.
It's showtime.
What I say is true. Anyone can cook, but only the fearless can be great.
I beg your pardon?
Feed me!
The hell are you supposed to be?
I'm vengeance.
Now this is pod racing.
Finally, worthy opponent. Our battle will be legendary.
Do you have it in you to make it epic?
Hello everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the Hundreds of Movies podcast. I am one half of the hosts here. My name is Ethan Battle, and I'm with my good friend...
Chris Tierney. I'm the other half of the podcast.
Yes, and we're here to chat about all things movies. Now, we are here today to talk about The Ghost with the Most, but I think before we get into that, because it is the first episode, I think we ought to tell the listeners a little bit about ourselves, Chris. So, Chris and I actually met through something close to movies. It's similar. We met doing Saturday Night Fever, the musical. So, cheeky musical adaptation of the movie, which was great. So we've known each other for actually not too long.
No, it's nearly, I'd say like 6-7 months now.
Yeah, we're almost at a year, but not quite. Mm-hmm. We have sort of, bonded closer for a love for movies, a love for pop culture, and obviously being actors and musical theatre professionals.
We kind of knew what we're talking about.
Just to sort of set the vibe for what we want to, kind of go for here. Mm-hmm. We are in no way, as our cheeky social media bio says, we are in no way professional critics of movies. We are merely casual enjoyers, cinephiles, if you will.
Cinephiles,
absolute cinema, Mr. Scorsese.
If you're nasty.
And we're using this as a way to sort of, channel our thoughts and feelings into a way that makes us feel important. Mm-hmm. And that's about it.
It's the toxic urge to start a podcast.
Yeah,
it's finally hit us.
We've succumbed to the aggressive need to start a podcast soon. Mm-hmm. We're going to set the camera up and we're just going to talk about absolute nonsense. It's going to make no sense, but it's going to blow up on social media.
Exactly. This is going to be the big time.
Literally. I say that's a good segue into our topic for today, which is Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. I don't know if I'm going to say it the third time. I don't know if I should. We're on tenterhooks here. But yes, we are talking about Beetlejuice. And not just the new one that's come out, the original as well. Mm-hmm. We have started our own little movie club, and we're going to aim to watch a movie once a week. And last week it was, correct? Was it last week or was it the week before?
No, Beetlejuice, last week, yeah.
No, it was last week, wow. That was so soon. We watched the original Beetlejuice, and then the day after went out to see the new Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. I kind of just said it 3 times just then.
You said it 3 times.
If things start to happen, we'll know why.
We'll know what's happening.
But that's right. We have watched the original and the sequel. We're going to see how they compare. We're going to chat about our thoughts, what we rate both of them. Mm-hmm. Does the new one work as a sequel? How does it follow up? Do we think, it's dropped off? Was it worth the wait? All these kind of things we're going to discuss throughout the episode. So, let's just jump straight in.
I agree.
What do we think? I'm going to start with you, Chris. What do you think of the original Beetlejuice after watching it again?
So, I actually didn't grow up watching Beetlejuice. I only watched it for the first time a few years ago. So, I didn't have any attachment to the story, the characters, anything, the vibe of this film. It wasn't something I'm sentimental on. So, rewatching it, I really had a good time rewatching the film. I can see why so many people, still consider it one of their favorite films. I really enjoyed the dark humor of it. I personally love practical effects and like stop motion, and Tim Burton really leaned into it. And you get just the most unhinged performances. Michael Keaton and Catherine O'Hara really just let loose for this film. And I just thought that, yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I agree. I personally didn't grow up on the film either. I don't remember the first time I watched it. I just knew I had seen it. I would say it must have been, I reckon, 2016, 2017 when I saw it first, so not that long ago. But because of the musical existing, that's what sort of elevated my love for it.
The gateway.
Yeah, so going back and rewatching it after having pretty much no memory of what happens, it was really, really good. I do love the movie. I think it's very, very iconic for what it is. And just the overall aesthetic and vibe is just so strong. Yeah. And it's just, it's so bold, and I do love it. I definitely think one thing, I think people will hopefully agree with this, but I definitely think Keaton is underutilized in this film.
Literally, I was looking this up. He is in the film 14 minutes.
That's crazy.
In the entirety of, I think it's an hour and a half, and like just over an hour and a half. 14 minutes is all we get of Mike Keaton.
For being the titular character as well, I think they definitely could have utilized him more, but because he's not in it so much, it does make you look forward to when he does show up.
Every time he shows up, you sit up a little bit like, oh god, what's about to happen?
Yeah, because you know anything is about to come out of his mouth. You don't even know what he's going to say. And I will say, soundtrack, Danny Elfman, he absolutely cooked with this one.
Absolutely.
Insane. It's amazing. It's iconic.
The opening title, just to go back to like the very start of the film, when they're panning over the town turning into the model, the music, the absolute, the banger of a title track that they have.
Good. It's so good.
It's like spooky, it's fun, it's energetic. It perfectly encapsulates the vibe of what you're about to watch.
And I will say, with the model swap over, I personally did not notice
seamless
it swap over, although when we do get to speak out the sequel, that will come up again. But yeah, it's just for such a little like time capsule of a movie, it's amazing. Practical effects, like you said, so good. And I do appreciate about the first one, at least, I like how self-contained it is and how small the scale it works on, and how pretty much it only really happens centered around the house. And it doesn't get too big for its boots. It's super simplistic, and that's why it works, because it's so character focused and not other aspects don't really work. It builds the world so well while keeping it still so like contained in itself. And I think
one thing I was looking up last night in preparation for this, Tim Burton actually, he purposely wanted to lean into the idea of the world looking cheap and actually looking purposely, this is quote, purposely fake looking. So like the idea of it being cheap and, looking a little bit off is because it was an intentional choice.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So a bit of backstory, a bit of context to how the film actually came about. So Tim Burton, his first ever like big directing project was Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Oh, yeah.
Pee Wee Herman. So after that, he was considered a bankable director. So he made enough money for Warner Brothers to say, hey, this guy, he can do good stuff. So they actually, in 1985, greenlit Burton to start writing a Batman script. Because he was like, I want to do Batman. That was his dream project.
Pee-wee to Batman is a crazy
pipeline.
Crazy jump.
But they greenlit, they would pay for him to write the script, but they were actually not ready or willing to let him shoot the film. So he was kind of stuck in a limbo of writing a script but not being allowed to make it. So he wanted to find something that would fill a creative void. It wasn't just, studio executive stuff. So he reached out to some writers he'd worked with before, and that's how Beetlejuice came about.
Oh, very, very interesting. Because I know, I do know that Elfman also did the soundtrack for Pee-wee as well. So that's so funny that they've worked on so many projects together since the beginning, since his directorial debut. He's now gone on, and they've just their work so well together.
They just
keep, very interesting.
I mean, God, how many projects have they worked on since? It's everything.
Yeah, literally. Even obviously on Henry Selick's movies, where Tim Burton is kind of the creative visionary, but didn't actually direct.
That's one thing I always tangent here, but I always forget Tim Burton didn't direct Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something people always forget, that Henry Selick directed, and Tim Burton kind of just I I think created it.
helped it come along.
Yeah. So
But it
that's so interesting.
But I was looking this up as well. The original script for Beetlejuice was going to be so much darker.
Really?
And so less comedic. It was going to be... Reading it, I had to cut some things out while I was looking, because it's like, I don't even know if I can say these things. So these are some of the things that I found that are different to the film. So originally, the Maitlands, Barbara and Adam, their car crash was going to be really graphic, and it was actually going to feature a sequence of Barbara's arm being crushed as they were slowly screaming and drowning in the model.
Because definitely in the movie it's so comedic with the dog on the plank. And
there's actually a subtle nod to this original script, the original darker death of them. When she comes back into the house, she actually complains that her arm feels a bit frozen. And that was because this original graphic crash was going to be her arm being crushed in the car.
Oh, wow.
I also saw that Beetlejuice was actually going to be a winged demon who takes on the form of a short Middle Eastern man.
Oh,
Yep.
interesting.
That was going to be the design for him.
I wonder who would have been cast then, if
Well,
whether it would still be Keaton
My
playing.
absolute favourite thing that I found out was that Tim Burton's original choice for Beetlejuice wasn't Keaton. It was Sammy Davis Jr. from the Rat
Really?
Pack. Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. They would have 100% put a musical number in there.
Oh,
They
yeah.
would have had to.
More than the musical number we already got,
That's true, yeah.
which was going to be cut. They were going to cut the Deo sequence.
Yeah, because didn't Burton really fight for it to be kept in? Yeah.
They thought it just wasn't going to work, and it was like, please, got to put some faith in the audience that they're going to enjoy something a bit out of the box, and the whole film is that it's out of the box.
Yeah, I know. I wonder what the film would have been like without it. I feel like it just would have...
Dark.
I think if they hadn't have included that sequence, I don't think it would be as popular as it is.
No.
For sure. That it just would rip its personality from it.
And
It's heartbreaking to hear. Wow.
do you have any guesses for... So there was actually two titles they were potentially going to change the film to.
Okay.
Do you have any guesses for what you think Beetlejuice could have been called at some point?
Give me a hint. Give me a hint of the kind of thing.
One of them is basically just the plot of the film, in very small.
Ghost couple.
House Ghosts.
Oh, I was close.
That was one of the
close.
titles. And
House
then this
Ghosts.
other one is an absolute joke, and the fact that they almost chose it is like laughable. I don't even think
I don't think I'll be able to guess this.
this is true. Scared Sheetless, like bed sheet, sheetless.
Are you serious?
Appar-
That is not
Apparently,
good.
it was pitched as like a joke, and the studios were like,
Hey, I kind of like that idea.
"You're onto something there," and it's
Wow.
like, Jesus Christ, they almost.
There's no way that they... I'm assuming the film was already well into production before they were starting thinking of a title, because there's no way they went to make a joke about ghosts and sheets, especially even in the movie. It's such a small moment where they're actually like sheet ghosts. That would have been atrocious. That's so tonally off.
Yeah.
For the film.
I mean,
Wow.
this film was so. The fact that we got what it is so unique, because so many people were like almost cast. So many people, like Catherine O'Hara, wasn't even the original Delia. It was they'd actually were just about to start shooting, and it was the actress Angelica Houston, who is Morticia Addams in those 90s Addams Family films.
Oh, I can see why they were going to cast her then.
And she had to pull out due to illness. So Catherine O'Hara stepped in. So once again, almost very different.
Look, I never would wish someone to be ill, but I'm glad that happened.
Yeah.
I'm glad that happened. Because O'Hara is such a great fit for the role. It's so iconic. I love it so much. So this leads us on and begs the question: how do you think the film holds up nowadays, the original, watching it again? Because obviously practical effects, we do enjoy them, but I would say some of the green screen, not great, but I'm not going to let that affect my viewing experience.
I will say, this just might sound snobby, and growing up in the modern age, we're so lucky to have, technology that makes things look amazing and look awful sometimes as well. But I think part of what brings the film original down for me is just how grainy certain bits of it look. And that's just because that was what they were filming on at the time. But like, there are films from, you know, the late 80s which still have a bit, you know, a nicer looking quality to them. So the film just looks a little bit grainy, which I know some people will say that's part of the charm, but just from my eye, I like a clean looking project.
I would have to agree. Even we were watching, I believe it's the 4K remaster. We were watching that, and even then it was still a bit grainy, which was, I can see where you're coming from with that. I would have to agree. I would say that even though there's that and the green screen being dodgy, the effects are what give the movie its charm, for sure. And some of the things being dated kind of add to the aesthetic and the comedy of the film, watching it. And even, like, the inclusion of stop motion is really, really cool, especially with the sandworm. And, it's just, I just love it. Obviously,
the practical effects, especially like with Barbara and Adam when they're trying to scare away the Deets, and when they open the cupboard and she peels her face off, and it's just the little skeleton going rah, just screaming. I thought that was so funny.
It's so good, and on those funny moments, like the jokes are still funny. No, like it still holds up so well. Obviously, it hasn't been that long since the first movie came out. It's only been like, what, I'd say 40 odd years, 45.
Let's figure this.
We're doing a bit of a calculation here. We're not great with math.
36 years.
36 years. So it hasn't been that long, but it does kind of seem older than it is, to be honest. But the jokes are still funny. I will say one of the things that kind of annoyed me a little bit is you really can't understand what Michael Keaton says half the time.
No.
This leads me to like the little paragraph he says when he's like, oh, do you think I'm qualified? And he's like, I attended Juilliard. Towards the end of that, I'm like, what are you saying?
I need my subtitles.
I think when we watched it, I think I did say like, literally chuck on the subtitles. I cannot tell what Keaton is saying. And I think that this does actually crop back up in the sequel as well. But like, he just mumbles so much, and it's just like, I'm sure what he's saying is funny, but I can't fully understand
so
what he's
much
saying.
is being thrown at you. It's like, ha ha ha, you know, I'm laughing at the bits I'm even hearing, and there's so much more he's saying.
It's I guess it's the character, but for the sake of clarity, I would love to actually hear what Michael Keaton is saying.
Yes.
And obviously, with it, you know, begging the question of, does it hold up? There are some things that definitely don't hold up, such as my man, Jeffrey Jones. Just, that's all we're just going to give. We're just going to give a sigh, and then we're going to move on.
A quick Google search will tell you all you need to know about
if you don't know,
I think we just skip on over that one.
He's in it, and
he's in the film.
That's, he is an actor that exists.
If we're separating that, I actually think his character is actually quite funny in the film.
He is.
His character is quite funny, but that's about the only praise I'm willing to give, that his character is quite funny in that first film.
It is funny how a lot of stuff just happens to him, and it's so out of his control, and it just happens, and it's very entertaining. And him in his little office, just not wanting to be bothered the entire time.
The bird watching scene where he keeps being jump scared. Funny.
Oh, it's good. But yeah, I definitely think the movie is still great to watch nowadays, and I very, very enjoyed.
I'd say this is a hot take.
Oh, here we go.
Winona Ryder's one of the letdowns of the first film to me.
I would have to agree. Winona, if you're listening,
We
love
still
you.
love-
I'd still be happy to meet you in person if I ever ran into you, but the acting is not great from her. And obviously, she is quite young, but even now, with all her years of age in the newer film, still not great.
No.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there, but I think her performance definitely is masked by the standouts of Keaton and O'Hara. It elevates it, and so like I wasn't super hyper aware of her, dry performance, but it is something that I do tend to agree with you on that she's not the greatest, but
Watching the film, obviously you're kind of swept up in the high energy and the big sets, but then, you know, when you step back, it's like she's just a bit under from everyone else. I know that's purposeful because she's supposed to be, you know, I am strange and dark, whatever she says. You know, she's supposed to be the down bit of the film, but she's just a bit too...
yeah, a little bit boring.
Little bit
just
bland.
a little bit. But I will say, the pacing of the original was very good as well.
Oh, yeah.
Considering it's quite a short one, like only like about an hour and a half. It's paced so well, and like I was very surprised on a rewatch how soon the Deo dinner scene appears.
It just happens.
It was just, I was like, oh, we're here already. Like, it was crazy. I guess because I'm so used to having your, you know, the Batmans and June being like 3 hours long. And yeah, it was refreshing to constantly be given something new, and it doesn't linger on scenes too much. That brings us to the end of the first film. Let's move on to what you would rate it personally. On the cheeky Letterboxd, you can follow us on Letterboxd if you like.
We'll shout out our accounts later, but
We'll
yeah,
do a cheeky little shout out.
I'll go first.
Yeah, go for
I
it.
gave the original 4 stars on Letterboxd.
Very nice.
Which to me, I've kind of got like an equivalent post. We might share it at some point. It was a specific person I follow on in Letterboxd, and I graciously stole their rating system. I'll shout them out at some point, but they kind of gave every, you know, half a star all the way through to 5 stars their own like ranking, their own title. So for me, 4 stars is the equivalent of great. So not quite, you know, a masterpiece or like exceptional yet, but I think it was a great film.
I think when we first watched it, I immediately rated it 5 stars because it's just so iconic to me and I do love it. But then I think thinking on it, I dropped it down to 4.5 stars because I don't think it's a perfect film. And I would say like a 5-star movie for me is something I can come back to and rewatch over and over again. And I don't think it's that. I do think it's very, very great, and it does matter a lot to me, and I do love it. And obviously the musical plays a big part in that because that's one of my favorite pieces of media that exists. So yeah, I think a 4.5 is pretty valid from me. I very, very much enjoy it. I appreciate its flaws and for what it is, but I don't think it's like a masterpiece, absolute cinema kind of movie. But it's great for what it is, and I do really, really love it. And honestly, when we were going to go watch the new one, I was very worried that they were just going to stomp all over what the original movie set up, and the sequel is just going to be commercial moneymaker, cameos, terrible. And I was worried. For someone that loves the movie so much, it did make me a bit nervous going in. I did, watching the trailers, worry that it was not going to live up to the expectations I held, because I do hold very high expectations for franchises I like. But that's what we're talking about now. What did you think of the new one, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice?
Sliding seamlessly into this.
Yeah, look at that.
So as a, you know, saying I had no real attachment to the first film, I really enjoyed the second film.
Pleasantly surprised with how it turned out. I very, very much enjoyed it. I think there were actually several laugh out loud moments for me. And when I watch a film, I don't tend to laugh out loud. The most you'll get from me is a strong exhale through the nose.
A polite chuckle.
Yeah. And like, more so than the first film, there are actually moments that I found very, very funny, which I was very surprised. I haven't laughed out loud in a movie theater in a long time unless I'm making fun of a bad movie.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you, Twisters. But yeah, I was surprised. There were actually genuine comedy moments that I laughed at. Like, even chuckling at the kids' choir rendition of Deo was so funny. Oh, I should say, do we want to keep this spoiler free right now? Is that what we're going to go for? Or do you reckon it's just kind of...
I'm going to say we'll do a point, no spoilers.
Nice,
and we'll clearly say we're going to talk spoilers at some point. So let's just give our like spoiler free thoughts
Nice.
for a little section, and then we'll talk, or just talk spoilers.
There you go, guys. Now you know how prepared we are for
Oh,
this.
yeah.
We're discussing how we're going to go during recording.
Hey, welcome to Behind the Scenes, guys.
This is how it works in the industry.
I will say, was this film just gags and bits over and over again?
Yes. But
Did I absolutely love the film because it was just gags and bits over and over again? Yes. Yeah, every section, just it was silly, it was funny. Yeah, I thought it was. So one of the things I personally loved about the first film is the idea of the afterlife and how creative they got with it. So getting to spend more time with this film and seeing just how much of a bureaucracy it really is, with you've got police and like janitors and Beetlejuice, you've got all the different sections of it, even like a TSA system. Also, if I die and I find out there's a TSA queuing system down there, I don't want to go. I don't want to go.
just take me straight to the depths of the afterlife. I don't want to go through a waiting room.
That's the one.
Yeah, I will say I'm glad that the movie kept its charm from the original in some way. Not all of it was kept its charm, because obviously it's got to evolve to fit a more modern audience.
Oh yeah.
I think it does well as a sequel. I think it really holds the quality. I'm glad they took as long as they did to make it. I remember saying after watching the first one, if they had gone on to make a sequel to Beetlejuice within, I don't know, 5 or so years of the first one coming out, I don't know if the first one did well in the box office. Do you have that?
I do have that.
Oh, look at you go.
It was made for a budget of 15 million, which is, quite a low number for today's standards. And it made $75 million.
Oh, okay, so it did pretty well.
It actually was the 10th highest grossing film of 1988.
Wow, okay, because I was going to say, I don't know whether the hype was there for it to be made into a sequel, early on after the movie came out, but I'm glad they didn't rush into it, because I feel like if it had been made a sequel straight after the first one came out, the quality probably would have dropped.
Well, I will say, I did my research. We almost got 2 different sequels that were being made almost as soon as the first film was done.
Wow.
So in 1990, a writer called Warren Scarron, who actually went on to write Burton's Batman film, he was in the progress of writing a sequel called Beetlejuice in Love, which was going to be set. He was going to have a new couple, something about Paris, and Beetlejuice falls in love with a human, and it was like a whole thing. But so Warren Scarron actually passed away while writing the script, and it's kind of it never evolved.
That sounds like a cool concept, though. I feel like that would have worked well.
But then also in 1990, so just after that first film stopped, a writer called Jonathan Gems, who actually went on to work with Burton to do Mars Attacks in the 90s, he was hired to write a script for a new film called Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian. And it was going to be about the Dietz family moving to Hawaii for their dad to buy a Hawaiian resort. And it was basically going to be, as Tim Burton said, the worst mashup of films possible of gothic horror and Hawaiian beach resort family.
Wow.
And they were going to smush them together and make this Beetlejuice Goes Hawaiian.
I was going to say, I feel like a cool concept would be Beetlejuice just invading different genres of films. Like, you've got a teen drama over here? Oh, Beetlejuice is in there. What's he going to do?
Beetlejuice Goes West.
Yeah, like Western Beetlejuice. There are so many possibilities. That's what's great about the character, is that he works in so many different, concepts and regards, especially in the world of theme parks and stuff like that. You can just smush him in anywhere. Like, I know that Movie World over on the East Coast used to have a Beetlejuice and Gremlins theme park ride that I found out about, where the Gremlins break loose and then they end up freeing all these properties from WB, and Beetlejuice is the one that kind of saves the day in the end.
That's so cool.
And he comes in and he's obviously got his I think he's got his classic carousel look in there, and there's probably a slew of iconic lines.
That's awesome.
But just to think we had a theme park dark ride in Australia centered around Beetlejuice and the Gremlins, of all things, is just so crazy. And obviously I know that he's also been smushed in with like the Universal monsters in like Universal Parks and like a musical kind of rock show with all the Frankenstein's monster.
They threw him into Multiverses, which is Warner Brothers properties Smash Bros, but essentially he's one of the new characters.
He's just such a great character that can work in so many different ways, and it's so good. That was quite a tangent, I will say.
Yeah.
But I think worth it. And jumping back to thoughts, I definitely think O'Hara was the standout again in this. She was absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
Brought the energy of the first film and just elevated it. You can tell majority of the cast that came back, and I say majority for a reason, but majority of them were having so much fun.
Yeah.
Reprising their roles and just, I think the script really helped them, give into that. And the energy, the chaos that O'Hara brought as Delia again was just palpable. I loved it. It was so, so good. So good.
Yeah, she just steals the film. And she's really aged like fine wine, I will say. I love that woman. If you haven't watched Schitt's Creek, I highly recommend it.
That's on my watch list. I haven't seen that.
So funny in that. But yeah, anytime she's on screen, it was like, yay, I'm happy now. Yeah. I'm happy now.
Same with Keaton, obviously, reprising the role. I know that he was probably more than happy to come back. And he just does so well.
He looks, especially, Keaton obviously has gotten older since that first film. And you can tell in Beetlejuice that he's still this, decrepit old man. And it really reflected in the makeup this time. Like, you really could see, like, the receding hairline. And, like, you could see the cracked skin under it. And I think it worked, And
that's another thing that's great about having the movie made in this day and age, is being able to actually see the intricacies of the makeup and the sets in high definition with none of that annoying grain from the first one. Just seeing it in crisp was crazy.
I will say I'm intrigued for this film when it comes to awards season, because the original actually did win an Oscar for Best Makeup.
Oh, I think it definitely deserves it.
Oh,
really, really,
that
really
first
cool.
one, definitely.
Although I will say Monica Bellucci's character, makeup-wise, not great, but also performance-wise, not great.
I quite enjoyed... Okay, we're just going to get into spoilers now.
Should we do it? Yeah, let's do it.
We're going to talk spoilers.
Spoilers
now.
if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want it to be spoiled.
Spoilers.
Leave now.
I did I didn't mind the section where she was reassembling her body together.
I did think the effects looked a bit dodgy in that section, actually.
Yeah, although one detail which I noticed from one of the New Rockstars breakdown video, the last thing that she attaches to herself is her ring finger, because in the first film, Beetlejuice has the ring finger with the ring on it, which he tries to give Lydia.
Yeah.
So Beetlejuice had her finger.
I didn't even put two and two together, because I know he obviously has the finger. I didn't know it was hers.
Little detail that people are starting to put together. It's like it's the last thing to join her, because Beetlejuice had a ring finger, and it was that she did marry him.
That's a very clever way to tie it in. I genuinely did not pick up on that. Wow. Because I knew they obviously had the whole close-up with the finger, and I was like, I thought they were just trying to get at, she was married before, but I didn't even put two and two together there. Wow.
It's a subtle detail. If it was intentional or not, we don't know, but I thought that was a clever little detail.
Yeah, but I think staying on Monica Bellucci's character, not great. I don't think she really served the plot very well. I think she was just
the lowest point of this film.
Definitely.
There was no incentive in her acting. There was just nothing behind the eyes.
And even on top of the performance-wise, just the way the character serves in the plot just wasn't great, because she wasn't the main threat. She was just a side threat to kind of add tension. And the movie probably would have been better without her there, because she comes back in the climax of the film, obviously, but like
2 seconds. She didn't actually do anything.
She is just like searching for Beetlejuice the whole time, but that never really has any consequences. It just means it's like, oh no, but like Beetlejuice and like Lydia running around, like it doesn't really affect them as well either. So she's kind of just there, and I didn't really appreciate it. I feel like it didn't really need to be included.
She also killed my favourite character.
That's true.
Bob.
That's true. Rest in peace, Bob.
She killed Bob.
Justice for my man. I thought we were going to get a Bob voice reveal in that scene. I thought he was finally going to speak, and it might have been cool to have some sort of celebrity cameo in there, but no. He's dead.
He's dead.
I've been in mourning since we've seen a film. I've turned into Lydia from the first movie. I've got my spiky bangs, and I've not enjoyed it. You know.
I'm so sorry for your loss.
Rip Bob, justice to my man. Although it is funny. I don't know who said this. I remember hearing someone say it, that Bob is kind of like the Minions in this film in terms of like marketing and the way his character works.
They really
All the
are.
shrunken heads are kind of like the Minions of this franchise, which I don't know whether I agree with it, but it's cool to have them here.
Getting to see them, because obviously in the first film you only really see the one in the waiting room who's like obviously like a hunter or something, but with this one actually getting to see them being the workers in his office, I just kind of love that you could very much tell that it was just a regular person with an extended
with it stacked
with
on
an
top.
extended little head on above of it.
I will say one of the funny moments in this film when the hole in the wall gets blown through and then you just see all the shrunken heads slowly turn around and then make a run for it immediately.
That one shot when they're in the town and you just see them, one's riding a bicycle.
Yeah, like going through like crisps at the shop.
Yeah.
And that was really funny, a bit of chaos there. Again, like the Minions in the Minion movie.
If you don't have
parallels.
if you don't have a little guy in your movies, what's the point?
Yeah, you're not going to make a profit.
And they're even wearing yellow.
Yeah, I know. Like, you need the little guy. It's just so funny that that's what they like. That's how they serve the plot. It's just silly little guys
Just
running
silly
about.
little guys.
It's quite funny. I will say, going on things we didn't necessarily like, the plot line of obviously we have our newcomer to the Beetlejuice franchise. We have, oh my gosh, Jenna Ortega. That's her name. I almost lost it for a second there as Astrid. That little plot line of her being in love, I don't necessarily gel with.
Don't dig it.
It was a bit... I was physically cringing with some of the lines that I don't even know his character's name, but the main villain.
Oh, God,
you
what
probably
was
got it written down somewhere.
Oh gosh.
But I didn't really appreciate... Some of the lines he said were just so cliche and made me like, shrink up in my seat. And just the plot twist of like...
Jeremy.
Jeremy. You see, I wouldn't have known. Jeremy turning out to be like, I'm a ghost and I'm evil. I was like, okay. It had to be done to make a villain that wasn't, Miss Frankenstein staple face over there. But
it felt like Tim Burton was, when he was writing the script for the sequel, he was stuck in the mindset of Wednesday. Teen cliche.
Yeah, I will agree. And I will say, one of my things that I hate is inaccuracies in movies or things that just don't make sense whatsoever. And one of the things that does not make any sense in that regard is when Astrid crashes and smacks her head on the tree so intensely and then just gets up and starts chatting as if nothing happened. I was like, there's no physical signs of bruising. She is just like ate shit in this tree, and the recoil and the thud is just crazy, and she just gets up like nothing happens, and that just annoyed me because I was like, is this plot armor? They don't want her to have a black eye for the rest of the movie. Like, that just kind of like was grinding my gears, being like, I'm sorry, she has at least a concussion. I think that's probably what led her to being able to see ghosts, was hitting her head. But it just, the way it was dealt with I'm fine. Oh, my mom. My mom and my stepmom. Which and it's just like, yeah, great. Like, it's just so annoying to watch, and I was just there like, this irks me. It was a bit. Oh, and also one of the major things that really pissed me off.
Do tell.
Was just saying, Adam and Barbara found a loophole in this. Then they got out of here.
They're gone.
That annoyed me so much. There must have been some sort of scheduling conflict or reason why they didn't want them to return.
I had a little look into it. Apparently, in one of the original drafts, they were going to be in it, but the whole point is that the ghosts
don't age.
The ghosts don't age, and it would have inflated the budget so much more to try and get the two of them back to de-age them down. And also, I don't know where they would have fit into the story.
That's true.
The one that we were presented, I don't see where they would have fit.
It would have just been a cameo.
It would have just inflated the movie to a point where it's like, we're just doing
a nostalgia bait kind of thing.
they made a choice of, do they want them to just be cameo bait, or do they want to serve a purpose? And I felt like everything in this film had a purpose.
Yeah.
Minus Monica Bellucci's character. But yeah, I thought, I didn't mind that they weren't there, but also, yeah, the way that it was explained of just, they found a loophole and they're gone.
Exact same opinion with me. I don't necessarily think they should be in the movie. Like, I was maybe hoping for, like, a glimpse of them, but, like, obviously it's not the be-all, end-all. It's just the way they handled the explanation of why they're gone now was just, the line was literally a throwaway that pretty much verbatim is, Barbara and Adam found a loophole and found a way to escape the house. And that is all we got. And that just kind of irked me. We got more explanation for Jeffrey Jones's character than we did those two. Which is just crazy that they cared to explain, a criminal's character more so than, iconic characters that obviously Alec Baldwin has done some things. But, that just kind of annoyed me how they handled that and just kind of said that, like, they're gone now. Loophole.
Yep.
Like, wow. That just kind of annoyed me. Mm-hmm. And I will say, jumping back to my love, the Beetlejuice the Musical, I did find it interesting how they kind of yoinked and twisted some of the plot aspects of the musical. For those who are, unfamiliar, it's kind of the movie, but not really. They kind of changed some aspects in the musical to do with Lydia has lost her mum and ends up going into the netherworld to try and find her mum, and she's obsessed with, like, finding her mum and getting, like, getting the family out of the house, and Adam and Barbara aren't the main focus. It's more so focused on Lydia and her journey. And yeah, just like that plot aspect of Astrid searching for her dad and wanting to see her dad and going to the netherworld to find her dad.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, that's what leads her to make the bad decisions of, saying that incantation and walking through the door in search of her dad. Like, it's just interesting how they kind of, I don't know if they are taking the musical as an inspiration for that kind of plot, but it does have its similarities, which I thought was interesting to see.
I will say, when we eventually did get the dad, that was a bit of a weird spot where he was there and he said, I have been seeing you. I've been coming to see you, but you just haven't seen me. It was like, huh? They didn't.
Surely if you're wanting to interact with a ghost and you have those, like, medium abilities, surely you would more so likely to be seeing a ghost that you care about and want to see, rather than, one just, like, popping up. Like, obviously, Lydia is having these shocking sightings of Beetlejuice in the early thing, which we find out is not her hallucinating. It is actually Beetlejuice checking in.
He's just been purposefully traumatizing her for the last 36 years.
It is interesting to see that, like, yeah, he has been checking in on them, but they haven't been seeing him. It was kind of a bit like, oh, that's weird. Why is that?
A bit of an inconsistent
part
of it. But I will say, I loved the little prosthetic fish.
Yeah, just flapping constantly. They were just,
especially when there was the moment when they're all looking at each other all lovingly and it's quite silent, and all you can hear is, like, the little fish is flopping on him.
That is funny. I will say, I don't necessarily know how much I like the thought of Beetlejuice being obsessed with Lydia and wanting to marry her again and being in love with her, because I didn't get that vibe from the first film. I didn't get the vibe that he was in love with her. He only really wanted to marry her to become human again.
Yeah.
And just using that as a point of, oh, I'm obsessed with her, I want to marry her, I need her, was a bit weird, because it seemed like they kind of took the mixed message of the first film and made it something that it necessarily is not.
In the first film, he's more of a creep towards Barbara and Adam. Less towards Lydia, because she is a child. But then in this film, because she's older, it's like he's still got a picture of young Lydia on his desk.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know that's part of what Tim Burton loves about Beetlejuice, is that he pushes the line.
He's not PC.
He's not PC. He's not, as they would say, woke. But yeah, it was like a little bit of like, oh, is this okay?
Yeah, I was also very pleasantly surprised to see that we got a little sequence explaining the origin of Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
About how he died. I thought that was very interesting.
The
and,
reference to old cinema where he's got the... Was it Spanish or Italian where
it must have been.
He pulls out the mic and he starts explaining to Bob.
Yeah, I mean, I think that little bit there was a bit... I don't know, it seemed not tonally right for the film. It did kind of catch me off guard when I was like, this is odd.
Yeah.
Like, it seemed a bit out there. I can see where they were kind of go with it being quirky and stuff, but I kind of didn't gel with that. But I did find it quite interesting how we got a bit of Beetlejuice backstory and, like, how he came to be. And, you know, it's a shame that that's how they introduced Monica Bellucci's character. And, like, it was a bit like they could have still done that, but the character didn't need to be what it was. But yeah, I just thought it was quite interesting. I wouldn't have thought they would have given us backstory to Beetlejuice, because I did kind of like the idea that you don't know where he's came from, and he's
just there.
He is what he is, and he's been through a lot. And so getting his origin, I don't necessarily like.
That's
it was
fair.
interesting to see, and I'm like, oh, that's what they've decided to do as his, you know, backstory. But I don't think I necessarily liked knowing. It's kind of cool having the mysterious air around of like what he is, where he's come from.
Yeah.
Because I kind of do like the idea of him being this like almost sentient type being, and he's this demon. And how has he become a demon? Because like he just dies, but I don't really remember if they explain him getting that demon status where he's able to manipulate things, which isn't something that dead people can all do.
No.
So there's still more to tell there, but I don't want them to tell it. I don't want to know.
I don't need another film.
was gonna say, yeah.
Maybe if they was to like revive the animated series, you know,
Oh,
that
yeah,
could be
that could be
cool. But
interesting.
you know, I don't need another. I don't need a Beetlejuice Beetlejuice.
Yeah, I don't think it deserves it. Maybe it might be cool to have like an anthology like TV series, maybe with standalone stories of Beetlejuice being a bioexorcist.
Yeah.
I feel like could be kind of cool, as long as it's very loose with like the canon and the lore and stuff. As long as they don't like if someone wanted to, you know, take the piss a little with him, or make like an revamped adult animated series would be kind of cool to see. But I don't think we need another theatrical sequel, because I feel like that might ruin what's already pretty good.
And I will say, I don't think we will, because Tim Burton has said, you know, I'm not really that interested in doing it.
That's good.
You know, it took me 36 years to make this film. Do I want to spend another 36 years?
Yeah, it would be on his deathbed by the time the next one's going to be coming out.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think it could happen, but I don't think it's warranted.
No.
I don't think it's
I'm
needed.
not pining for it.
No.
But I know for a fact that the next 10 years on Facebook, there will be someone will make a poster of a fake Beetlejuice 3, and it will be the same poster.
Trailer.
I was looking on Letterboxd the other day, and if you've got a subscription to Letterboxd, you can change your posters. One of the posters is the Facebook post. You know, the famous one where it's like Michael Keaton he's kind of half covering his face. It's one of the options for the film poster, and I saw it and I went, oh, I got shudders down my back. So I've spent years seeing.
Memories.
It's like there's such a specific group that poster comes in. It's like Beetlejuice 2, Back to the Future 4.
Yes, yeah.
It's happening now, but Happy Gilmore 2 was like on one of them for a while. They actually just started filming that the other day.
No way. I did see Adam Sandler's Instagram post with the jersey. That's cool.
But yeah, there's like a specific group of films that are like probably never going to happen, and you know, you always see them, and it's shared by like your mum's best friend's cousin. Something crazy.
They'd be like, wow, look what they just announced. I'm so excited. Yeah, and I think one of the charms of Beetlejuice is all the possible spin-offs that he can have, and he pops up here and there, and you never know when he's going to pop up. But when he does, it's always just great.
Yeah.
Like, going back to the theme parks, he also did a show with the Ghostbusters in Universal in the 90s. He had a Ghostbusters x Beetlejuice kind of show, which was pretty cool.
That makes so much sense.
But that's what I like a lot more, is just lots of little odd appearances from him, and like the musical, obviously, again, is great. And just lots of little niche things just work so well, and they're really, really cool. And I really like that. So more of those little odd things. rather than another movie. I think that works a lot more. But moving on to our next topic, how do you think the new one compares to the old one? Do you think it lives up to the standards? What kind of thoughts do you have on that?
To me, it's just under the first film to me. I still think it's a great film. I just think it's just maybe just like a half step down.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, I think that's my opinion. Is it's just a step down.
I think it definitely works well as a sequel. I'm glad they took their time with it. It's good, but obviously it's not as iconic as the first one because there's all the, cult classic vibes around the first one, and that's always going to have its audience. So I feel like there were probably some fans that might not have been happy with the new one. I was pretty happy with it. I would agree with the kind of step down sort of thing. I rated it on my Letterboxd. I rated it 4 out of 5. There were obviously a lot more flaws with the plot than the first one. But it still works. It was still entertaining enough to sit through. I didn't really get too bored. I wasn't really, sat there arms crossed, shaking my head and huffing and puffing, watching it, and I was pleasantly surprised. There was lots of good humour, and obviously the performances were pretty great from 80% of the cast. And I was worried that with the sequel that it was going to get too big for its boots, that it was going to, kind of get too big of a scale and they're going to try be a bit too cinematic with it. Obviously, kind of what's happened to the MCU with the multiverse and stuff like that. I thought it was going to get a bit too chaotic and too wide a scale because obviously the charm of the first one is the characters. But I'm pleasantly surprised we only really saw a little bit more of the Netherworld, and it kind of stayed around the house again, which was nice. And I did say I would bring this back up earlier, and I've only just remembered the swap to the model in the opening sequence. I saw it this time. I noticed when they swapped, whereas in the first one I didn't notice as well. And I'm glad they kind of did the opening sequence
exactly the same.
Pretty much the same, yeah.
I will say, I loved how in the first film, it goes through the town and it goes to the house, and then obviously in the original you get the giant spider crawling across.
Yeah.
In this one, I loved how it went up to the house and then into the house, and that's how the film started. I thought that was really cool. Clever.
And I did like all the little Easter eggs on the model, like Adam and Barbara still at the bottom of the ravine,
still in the river.
The car,
yeah,
and stuff like that was just really cool. I really liked how that was a good nod to the first one, because I don't know how else you would start a Beetlejuice film. It's so iconic, you can't
do
start
the same
any other
thing.
way.
The first thing works so well, don't fix it if it ain't broke.
Exactly. And Elfman again with the score, a bit of a revamped title sequence, which is cool. It works well. And both of them, the way I would judge how much I like a movie soundtrack is, would I buy the vinyl of it?
Yeah.
Because for you guys that don't know me, I'm a fiend for vinyl records. I collect them aggressively. I love them. I love my movie soundtracks. And that's definitely something that I will use to judge how much I like the soundtrack is, would I buy it on vinyl? And I can officially say I would buy it on vinyl.
Hey.
And Chris sent me the other day a vinyl press, and he's showing it to me right now, that they've released for the new film, and it looks so cool. It's like a splatter of like purples and blacks and greens, and the art is really cool.
Hell yeah.
So I'm for sure going to cop that. I do need to get the original soundtrack as well. But I do appreciate how Danny Elfman has kept his charm and kept the same level of badassery with this soundtrack as he did the first time round.
Oh yeah,
I do love it. I think it just overall works pretty well for itself. I'm pretty happy with it, to be honest.
I didn't say I rated this one 3.5.
3.5. Yeah, there you go. Half a step down from the first.
It's exact. It's it's just there. It's just half a step down. So as much as you went down half a step, I went down half a step. Just makes sense.
I think it also has somewhat of a rewatchable air to it as well. I think in a few months' time I would probably come back to it. I think that's pretty good, where I don't like when a film is not rewatchable. I think it just a one and done is a bit okay. But I think there are aspects of it I would like to see again. I'm worried. One of the things I did pick up on actually that I just remembered is the sandworm. It didn't. I don't know if you felt the same. It didn't look like it was stop motion. It looked like it was computer animated in a way that looks like stop motion. I don't know if you picked up on that as well, but I was a little bit annoyed. I obviously don't know if it is or not. We'll probably find out when a behind the scenes sort of thing comes out. But it didn't necessarily look stop motion. That kind of was a bit disappointing to me because that is like kind of an iconic part, and you know, the look of it being claymation and stuff was cool.
Yeah.
And so it just looked a bit computer generated, and I didn't necessarily gel with that.
Not entirely sure of that one, but yeah,
We'll find out eventually.
We'll
I'm
find
sure.
out at some point.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta say, got to shout out my boy Willem Dafoe.
Oh yeah, I
He's
completely forgot to touch on him.
He's got such a small part in this film, but he's just fun. You know, letting him be a weird little guy, because Willem Dafoe is just a weird little guy.
He's done so many like art house films recently that he just plays zany characters, and it's just led him so well into this where you can basically tell he's having so much fun with it, and he just takes the piss the whole time. And the gag with the coffee in hand, and the fact that he's playing an actor, it's so entertaining.
Getting the coffee in his hand and almost always like scrunching it up and throwing
like
it
the
down.
shot of the bin where they're just like
stacked up to his knees of just coffee cups.
Yeah, he was very, very cool to watch and very funny, and like I appreciated in the climax of the film when we get that obviously musical sequence again where they swapped him out for like a statue of himself when he gets frozen.
There is a brilliant picture that Jenna Ortega posted, and it's her just standing in front of the model where he's got the gun just pointing at her head.
I want to see this.
It's so funny because he's like covered in the cake, and he's looking. She looks like.
Oh, I'm seeing it.
Yeah,
I love that.
The green background.
Because like it's funny that they don't really try to hide that it's a model as well.
Oh
like,
yeah.
It's just he was great. He was really, really good. You can tell he just added so much to the lightheartedness of the film that he didn't really take himself too seriously.
There's like two actors. There's quite a few actors. I see their name in titles. I'm gonna go and see their film regardless. J.K. Simmons and Willem Dafoe are like two of those people.
So good.
And the fact that Willem's in this film, and they're both going to be in that Saturday Night that's coming out in a few weeks.
Yeah,
as soon as I saw both of their names in the trailer, it was like, oh, I'm gonna see this film.
Yeah, for sure. He was really, really good, and yeah, for the most part, cast was very well casted, and yeah, that addition of like the detective type character to sort of add to the tension was great. Like that's what you needed more of rather than Monica Bellucci's character. Like, he was already there to add an external force of like committing crimes against the netherworld and having to stop them.
And it also, once again, what I loved about building out the lore of the afterlife, having the police force there to hunt down rogue, rogue ghosts or rogue humans that end up in the afterlife.
It's like the equivalent of the TVA in Marvel.
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting. It worked well. I liked it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that's about it for us in terms of our thoughts. Definitely see it if you haven't already. If you've listened this far and we've spoiled some things for you, it's still worth seeing.
Yeah.
Despite our negative thoughts, obviously. We're always going to be critical. I tend to be quite a critical person. I'm kind of hard to please. But I will give it its merits when, it does something well. And it has done a lot of things well. It's a funny film. It's entertaining. It's great. Definitely go and see it. Not sponsored or anything, but, we're happy to strongly recommend you see a good film.
We strongly advise that you go and see this film.
You have to see it now. You must.
Have to see it, yeah.
And obviously, if you have the capability of watching the original before seeing the new one, if you haven't seen it already, definitely do a rewatch because it just adds so much to it. It's just so great. Really, really good. So I'm pretty happy.
Yeah. Now, Ethan.
Yes.
I'm pitching a game to you.
Okay, here we go.
So this is completely separate to the review now. This is a new thing.
All right.
So I have found 3 different films.
Sure.
Across all movie history, and I have written down their critics' score rating from Rotten Tomatoes, and I'd like you to guess what you think these films' rating officially are.
All right. Give it to me.
So, number 1, Little Shop of Horrors from 1986.
Oh, this is one of my favorites as well. Oh.
Listeners, if you're not aware, Rotten Tomatoes is a reviewing system where they put an aggregate score out for critics and audience, and then the higher it is, it means the more critics gave positive reviews. So this is the number we're giving, is the positive number of reviews out of all of the reviews that were given for Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah, one of the very comedic things on Rotten Tomatoes is seeing how the audience and critic score differs. Usually if it's a terrible film, the critics will rate it really high and the audience will rate it really low, and vice versa. It's quite entertaining. But back on topic, Little Shop of Horrors. Now, this is in my top 4 on Letterboxd. It's one of my favorites.
That's why I chose it.
I'm gonna undersell it. I think it's gonna be sat at a 62%.
Is that your final answer?
I'm gonna go with it. Lock it in.
91%.
91.
91%.
Oh my gosh! I would have thought that they would have not appreciated it as much. 91 is crazy.
You've got to remember the pull of Rick Moranis in the late 80s.
That's true.
Rick
Wow.
Moranis, a 91%.
91. Wow, I really undersold it then. I really thought it was not going to do that well. I thought people wouldn't have appreciated it for what it was. Wow. That was so off. Damn. All right. What's your next one?
See, I told you I'm picking some good ones.
Jeez.
So, a more recent one. So, from last year, we've got the Super Mario Bros. Movie.
Oh.
Starring the voice of everyone, Chris Pratt.
I'm going to go with a 49.
Is final answer?
No, actually, I'm going to go lower. I reckon I'm going to give it a 43.
Ooh,
Final answer, lock it in.
59%.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So the critics were...
I thought it was okay.
Just a bit more... They got just a bit more positive with that one.
Yeah, not bad. I thought it was alright. I thought it was okay. That's fair. Alright, what's my last one?
And a random one I found. Grown Ups 2.
I have seen this movie. This was a big part of my early high school years. I would watch this so much.
Yeah.
Okay. Grown Ups 2.
Not Grown Ups 1.
Not Grown Ups 1.
Grown Ups
2. I'm going to go with... See, do I think it did better or worse than the Mario movie? I'm going to give it a solid 56. And that's my final answer. Locked in.
8%.
8!
It has an 8% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh my gosh. Is there like a little blurb that writes down like the thoughts as to why it is valid for an... Because 8% is... like median kind of...
That's the median pot. Out of 116 reviews from critics, it got only 8% of them were positive.
Wow.
So the critics' consensus from 2013 were, while it's almost certainly the movie event of the year for filmgoers passionate about deer urine humour, Grown Ups 2 will bore, annoy and disgust audiences of nearly every other persuasion.
Wow. Yikes, that's
brutal.
That does not sound good. Wow. Well, I'm gonna cheeky get at 3 films for you then. I didn't prepare these, but I'm gonna get them right on the fly.
We'll
hit you with the first one that I've already got up. My first one is going on the theme of Tim Burton, The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Now,
what do you think?
I'm gonna go high with this one. I'm gonna shoot for the moon. I'm gonna give it 94%.
94%. Well, is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
It got 95%. You were so close.
God damn it.
Wow. Very, very close. All right, your next one is the original Rocky.
Adrian. The original Rocky, I'm going to say 78%.
Is that your final answer?
Yes. I'd like it to be higher, but I'm going to go shoot a bit low.
92%. They like it.
Yeah. I should have gone higher. That film is great. Tangent, have you seen the Creed films?
No, I haven't.
We've got to do something on the Creed films.
Are they good?
We've got to watch the first few Rockies and then the first 2 Creeds incredible films.
Interesting.
Tangent. All
right, well,
sidebar that.
Your last movie, considering there is a new one coming out, is Terrifier.
Ooh.
What do you think?
Ooh, I'm gonna give it an 83%. 83%.
Is that your final answer?
Mm-hmm.
You got a 57. 57.
Ooh.
Interesting. Compared to the second one as well. The second one got an 86.
Ah.
So the second one is more appreciated than the first.
Mm-hmm. I believe the first one's a bit more art housey, a bit more not
Setting itself up sort
yeah.
of thing.
And then the second one, they just went balls to the walls, and now this new one is going to be gory.
I think setting up a precedent, I reckon we should do this end of each episode. Little fun game to tie us out. I think
good fun. I like this one.
Yeah, I do like it as well. Your guesses were definitely a lot closer than mine. Greenwich is getting 8% is crazy.
I know, right?
That is hilarious. You gave me such a wide array of...
Can't believe I was 1% out of that first
Christmas.
one. Oh,
wow, crazy.
1% out.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of our first episode.
I think it does.
We will tell the people now where they can find us. Obviously, you can follow our official Instagram page for the podcast at Hundreds of Movies.
That's all one
on
word.
The gram.
All one word. Hundreds of movies.
We're also on Twitter, or X if you like it. TikTok.
X if you're nasty.
Yeah. TikTok, nothing's been posted there, but I'm sure we'll get something on there at some point. Same sort of similar usernames there. We obviously, I think, had to accommodate the full title not being available.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you head to our Instagram, we have a link tree there with everything linked. You can follow us. We can join our Discord server if you like.
We've got a Discord.
If you want to chat about some movies, you can do that. Personally, you can find me on Instagram at Ethan_Battle if you would like to see what I'm up to personally. Chris, where can they find you?
You can find me on most social medias at Chris_Thing2. If you want to follow me on Letterboxd, it's Apollo the Cookie. That's Apollo the Cookie, all one word. If you want to see what I'm personally watching, because I watch so much stuff because I've got so much time to kill.
Yeah, you can follow me on Letterboxd if you like as well. _Ethab_. Cheeky one there. Ethab. Classic. But yeah, that's where you can find us if you want to keep up with everything we've got going on. We're going to aim to get these out, fortnightly, with some new stuff for you. We'll obviously do a cheeky little teaser of the topic for the next episode at some point, probably in the off week where we're not releasing.
When I remember to make one.
Yeah, Chris is slaving away at the computer, making the graphics.
I'm like the dad from Coraline.
Yeah,
I'm hunched over.
Bags under the eyes,
That's
just
me.
slaving away. But I hope you enjoyed listening to our cheeky little rants and tangents about Beetlejuice and Beetlejuice.
Please follow us on wherever you listen to us on a podcast.
Yeah.
If you're on Apple, give us a nice little review. If you liked it, tell your friends, tell your family.
Yeah, you're actually legally obligated to tell people if you're listening right now.
If you've made it this far, you have to share it.
You have to at
It's
least.
the rules.
We'll be able to find you. We will
find
come to your house and we'll go knock door to door.
We'll summon the bioexorcist for you.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm not hesitating to say it 3 times if that's what needs to be done. Yeah. I'll sick old Keaton on you. He'll come for you. I've heard he's a very nice guy though.
Yes,
so maybe that's not the best strategy if we want people to make us famous.
Regardless, follow us, and we hope to see you. Tune in for the next episode.
Yep.
Awesome.
We'll see you on the next one.
See you soon.
Peace.
Bye.